So we're going back to the original schedule, and it is an extraordinary privilege to have Gina, who is the CEO and founder of Kindbody, here to speak to all of us. We really appreciate it. She needs no introduction. I believe when you ask Siri or Alexa, what is women's health, her name is included in the definition. She's raised an amazing 122 million. And she has built incredible teams. She's highly regarded as one of the most successful femtech companies ever, with a world-class team. And I also would like to say she's one of the most humble and generous women around. Very, very busy today. She had her own board meeting, and so she is kindly and graciously joining us. I would love, Nicole, if you could please share a little bit more about Kindbody and Gina as we welcome her to our stage.
Absolutely, thank you. I'm excited to share about Kindbody, a leading fertility and family building care company offering state-of-the-art technology, comprehensive virtual and in-person care, and an employer benefits solution. Kindbody is the trusted fertility benefit solution for more than 70 employers, covering more than 350,000 lives. Kindbody delivers a seamless, integrated experience with superior health outcomes at a lower cost, making fertility care more affordable and accessible for all. I'm pleased to welcome Gina Bartasi, a seasoned entrepreneur and veteran problem solver with 20 years of experience in health tech and a proven record of leading disruptive businesses through rapid growth stages and successful exits. After founding Progeny in 2015, now a $5 billion company, she heard employers' desire to purchase fertility benefits directly from employers, resulting in millions in savings. Based on employers' feedback and industry insights, she launched Kindbody in August of 2018 with a team of experienced healthcare and industry veterans. Gina, you are welcome to take the stage. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. And can you guys hear me and see me?
Perfectly. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Susan. You know, if we're going to win the battle, we need an army. And the question is, how do you win the battle? You need an army, and an army of kick-ass strong women and a few good men. Our director of administration, Richie's going to drive. I'm going to speak to a few slides, but really the way we win with women's health is to have more women at the table. So Susan and team, thank you for having me this afternoon. I'm going to talk a little bit about Kindbody, and then happy to take questions related to our value prop or our fundraising initiatives. Susan mentioned, but you know, I think when we think about women and women's health, women do have this unique skill set to be resilient and to multitask. I had a board meeting this morning. We were supposed to have our holiday party this evening in New York. For those of you that are in New York, you know, COVID cases are surging. So our holiday party was supposed to be tonight. And then I was leaving tomorrow morning because my father passed away a year ago today. And I was flying at a 7 a.m. tomorrow morning to be at his celebration of life. So when the holiday party was canceled, I said, okay, I'll go to the airport. So I am in a car now. I was supposed to be doing this from the airport, but the traffic on the LIE is back to back. So I say that because you women embrace, like when I think about the kindredship amongst women today, it's very different than 10 years ago. Richie said, what do you want to do? I was like, these women will forgive me for being in the back of a car. And I just feel, you know, the other thing you could do is cancel and reschedule and try to do it later. But I find women today and women in venture and women in healthcare are so supportive of each other. And so I appreciate your support. I appreciate your flexibility again, Susan and team. And Richie, if you want to pop the deck up. And when I say about the army of women, another woman I have tremendous respect for and follow a lot is Sarah Blakely at Spanx. And she said, she posted recently online, because I'm mindful that I'm getting ready to meet my kids at the airport. And I've moved their schedule, not just my schedule. But she said, you know, when you go on a trip with your kids, it's not a vacation, it's just a trip. And I think, again, the more vulnerable women can, because women who have raised 122 million or we have, I don't know, 360 team members, we have 11 locations around the country. They seem untouchable. They seem to be this revered characters. And so, you know, Sarah's brutal honesty and my vulnerability to say, hey, listen, I'm going to wing this. We're going to do it from the back of an Uber, and my colleague Richie's going to drive, and we're going to make the best of it. So thank you again for allowing me to be vulnerable and cough in the back of the car. I wish I were at the airport in a quiet place, which is what I was intended to do. Richie, if you'll go to the next slide, please.
We're there. Can you see it, Gina?
I cannot, but that's okay. It might be that the Zoom is delayed. Really, Kindbody is changing the face of women's healthcare. I've been in the fertility industry for more than 10 years. When I first got in, I could remember raising money from male investors, and they would say, is women's healthcare going to be big? Again, when women are raising primarily from male investors, you guys already know only 2.7% of all venture money goes to women. They would say, are you sure fertility is going to be an issue? Are you sure that companies are going to be offering egg freezing to young professional women? Today, that's not a question. Today, we have the best blue chip funds really looking to support Kindbody and to invest in Kindbody. That kind, Richie, will you go to the next slide? And I'm not able to see the deck.
Yes,
Did I lose
Gina,
you?
sorry,
Yeah.
I'm going right now. I think we had a slight technical difficulty. Can you see it now?
Yep, it's perfect.
Yeah, I can. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect. Okay,
Yeah,
so here's the next.
Yeah, and you know what we wanted to highlight with these photos, these are our clinics. And so when patients come in, they talk about a spa-like setting at Kindbody. And we say, our locations do look like spas. They're intended to be empathetic. We said even before COVID that our patients are not sick. Our patients should not be in hospitals. They should not be in sterile settings. By the way, 1 in 6 heterosexual couples and all same-sex couples need fertility treatment to have families. So 1 in 6, if there are 100 people or 200 people on the call right now, 1 in 6 of you are going through this or have gone through this. And the sterile environments we're talking about. And so being able to come into a warm, inviting environment. All of our physicians, we have 88 providers, they're all women. Turns out that women actually prefer healthcare delivered by and for women. And then the other thing we take a great amount of pride in is 50% of our providers are also BIPOC. Historically, fertility has been cost prohibitive for the majority of Americans. We know that 6 times as many Americans need treatments than can afford it. So we are unapologetically bringing the cost of care down. So we talk about this premium experience. Women deserve to be well cared for. They like pretty things. I like pretty things. And so a very aesthetically pleasing clinic, but it doesn't have to break the bank. So how can you get a premium experience without a premium price tag? We do have a 92 NPS and Net Promoter Score, which is unheard of in healthcare. Again, we really prioritize the patient experience. The next slide, please, Richie. Yeah, so this goes into a little bit more detail. Again, a couple of photographs of our colleagues. The other thing is our physicians do not wear white coats. We've gotten rid of the hierarchical nature that's long existed in healthcare where the patient feels subordinate to the doctor. So when you come into our clinics, none of our physicians have their own offices. The tables that we talk to the patient are round to mimic kind of a pregnant belly, to be warm instead of these hard angular edges. Again, I mentioned 50% of our team members are BIPOC, and those are 2 of those 6 in the bottom photo are subspecialist REIs, but they don't wear white coats. And we do see a higher percentage of LGBTQ plus patients, but that's intentional. We really want to create accessibility for all. The next slide, please, Richie. Yeah, so if the question is, if you focus on 3 areas of healthcare, the patient experience, patient outcomes, and patient cost, and you're able to deliver this premium experience without a premium price tag, then how are your success rates? So this is just recently reported data. All fertility clinics must report their success rates to the CDC. So these are published success rates. And you do see the yellow column, which acknowledges that our success rates are double digits higher than both our peers as well as the national average. The other thing that you see as it relates to women's health and fertility, I'm a mom of twins. There were quite a number of twins a decade ago, certainly some triplets. In the fertility and women's health business today, we really want to move towards, and the industry's done a phenomenal job of moving towards single embryo transfer so that we can have babies one at a time as they were intended, instead of all of these multiples that were pretty widespread in the industry a decade ago. So at Kindbody, we have a 98%, 96 to 98% single embryo transfer, where we're transferring one embryo at a time. And then the result is that is no multiples. So we are having these healthy singleton pregnancies.
We have a couple of questions from you. Let me do the first one. People wanted to understand about insurers and if they're willing to pay the $150 per month per patient. If you could just talk a little bit more about the pricing, please.
Yes, so we do take insurance. We take insurance at all of our clinics, Aetna, Cigna, United. And what you're seeing in the fertility industry is more and more coverage by the carriers, which comes from your fully insured employers. So in New York State passed a mandate in January 2020 that mandated for fully insured, self-insured employers are exempt from the mandate, but fully insured employers with more than 100 employees must now cover fertility benefits, 3 cycles of IVF and egg freezing when it's medically indicated. So we do take insurance. We take insurance. Sometimes your employer will underwrite that cost. And for those of you that do not have coverage through your employer, only about 50% of Americans have coverage through their employer. We do have self-pay rates as well.
Thank you so much. And then another question on your pre-seed fundraise of $2 million. They were wondering, prior to that raise, what did your minimum viable product look at that stage?
Yeah, so I'm going to speak historically and what would be typical of the case for first-time entrepreneurs versus at Kindbody. So our minimal viable product when we raised our seed round was nothing. Like you wouldn't be able to do that unless you had a track record, unless your previous business had gone public and was worth several $billion. So to answer the question, we didn't have a minimal viable product. I had made a lot of money for my previous investors, and I said, you know, I'm going to start something new. I'm going to raise $2 million of seed money. And immediately that round was oversubscribed. Now that is unique. That I've been raising money for 15 years. You know, I've not ever been in that privileged situation. So I'm going to speak to how it is for most first-time founders. I am an angel investor. I think I have 13 different investments where I write angel checks. The minimal viable product that you do need something. What we like when I'm like to see to prove product market fit is some sort of revenue. Sometimes you're too early to even show revenue. A lot of times you'll just back teams. It is a lot less popular today to be a solo founder. I do encourage the founders that I back to try to find a co-founder, 2 or 3 other people, because if you don't have a minimal viable product that has revenue, then how can you get your seed investors to kind of get behind you and write you a check? A lot of times early stage investors are betting on the team. It's a lot harder to bet on one person than it is 3. So you could think about MVP, but a lot of times investors will also back teams of people with track records.
Thank you, Gina. We have a question about as the definition of women's health is changing, and it's so important for us to recognize men and women and people that identify with any type of identification. In terms of trans women, do you think they should be included in the allocation of women's health, included in the definition?
You know, I think it's up to the individual patient, right? So, you know, we think a lot about the trans community. When you come into our patient portal, you can identify however you identify. So far be it from me or anyone else, respectfully, to classify a trans person in women's health or men's health. I would tell you it is up to that individual trans person to self-identify. So when we call it women's health, that's a big bucket. The majority of our patients are women. But, you know, our advisory board, one of our close advisors is Dr. Jacques Cohen, and he constantly reminds me, he's like, Gina, you know, you need sperm to have a baby. And I'm like, oh, right, we need sperm to have a baby. So we do treat men. We see a lot of men. We see I would venture to say we see more trans patients in New York than any other legacy clinic in New York, but that's intentional. It is, we brought in a trans professional to train our team how to handle the trans population. But you have to be, you know, what I would say about diversity, because everybody's talking about women's health and D&I now, you know, you have to be deliberate about it. If you're going to be deliberate about diversity, when you have hiring decisions, you know, you're deliberate in how you hire, whether that's LGBTQ or whether it's on race. But our effort to support the trans community has been since the beginning, and you can see it with our training. Every time we open a new clinic, we train the staff in how to talk to and care for a trans community.
Thank you, Gina. We so appreciate your beautiful comments. I know you have to log off. Any last words of wisdom? We have a lot of founders in women's health and a lot of people that are in this community. Any last words of wisdom for all of us?
Now, again, what's rewarding to me, if you've been at this for kind of a decade plus, is we stand on the shoulders of each other. Like, I would never have done this 3 years ago. It's only been recently you have the confidence that other women, like, oh my God, Sarah is just as crazy as me, and Kate Ryder is just as crazy as me, and Carolyn Witte is, we have a million different things going on. And women have this amazing ability to be resilient. And now what we've needed is self-confidence. We've needed to have the confidence to say, it's okay, I'm going to jump on a call. Richie's like, I want to see you do this. I'm like, I've never done it. But again, I'm going to conclude where I started. I feel confident that I can do this call and have your attendees support by being vulnerable and saying, I need your help. And I would encourage all the other women to take risk and take chances. And hopefully, Susan, I've been helpful to your attendees, whether I'm sitting from behind a desk as I had intended, or if I'm in the back of an Uber. So again, we stand on the strengths of each other, and the community is getting wider and bigger. And if you're going to win the battle, you need a big army. And I'm delighted that the army is a million times bigger than it was 10 years ago. So thank you, HITLAB. Thank you, Susan, for your time this afternoon.
Gina, thank you so much. I think I can speak for everyone when I say that it's just an honor to have you. You're an inspiration to us. And I also appreciate you for being vulnerable, because it's not easy. A lot of the women in our that are part of our finalists would tell you that they're juggling a lot of things. And I think just being able to be honest about what it's like during COVID, moving a company that's a unicorn, you're so fast growing, we really appreciate the words. So thank you so very much, and safe travels. And we'll be thinking about you tomorrow in the celebration of life of your father. I'm sorry about the loss.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks all. Take care.
Thank you very, very much. We really appreciate it.